Boom! You're live. Hello, legends. How are you? I hope this finds you utterly phenomenal on this another day in our paradise. I know I say it every time, but boy, have I got a guest for you. Not just one of the greatest content providers, an exposer of the old cabal that we're lucky to have in our midst, but also one of the loveliest people that I happen to know. Just take a look at this.
One of the most often overlooked aspects of this global death cult is that this agenda is not something that has suddenly come about in the 20th century. It is believed that this temple was used to store Templar gold, and when a Templar knight travelled from Jerusalem to London, they were able to access their wealth from this temple. Even less is said about the Grey Pope, who some believe to be the true ruling power in the Vatican. A more modern-day high-profile name that is connected to the Jesuits is Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Yes, it's the wonderful Richard Willett playing a video there from his YouTube channel. The link is below, and we are going to be talking about all the weird and wonderful things that go to make up this crazy new world order, not least of which Keir Starmer, how he sold out the NHS by getting in Peter Thiel's Palantir to process the data without running it by the good people of this nation. We're going to be talking about something that's utterly intriguing to me, the selfish ledger. And then, of course, we'll finish off with a bit of Greta, because who doesn't like a bit of Greta? Not in that sense. No. I didn't mean it like that. and the certain president and his relationship with a certain genocidal dictator. Let's get into it. Rich, how are you, mate? And how's things at Iconic?
We're all good, thank you. We're I think it's 6.5 years old now, so it's running well now. It's kind of had its early days and its birthing stage, and we're completely putting out. I think it's like 22 bits of content a week at the moment. So it's mad, really, how much we are actually producing as a team. And it's a smaller team than it's been. At one time, it was massive, and we've kind of shrunk back down, but we're producing so much content, and it's incredible, the research. I mean, the world gives us so much material, doesn't it? It doesn't stop, so that's great. It's just a never-ending material of madness.
Yes. Well, David himself has given us so much material, being the sort of pioneer of this, or certainly this contemporary part of the truth movement. Someone asked me the other day, what's he like, Chris? I said, along with his boys, he's a very lovely, genuine person.
He is, yeah. He's just someone's granddad. Came around my house a few months back. Actually, no, it was a year ago. Jesus, that's gone quick. He just sat there with the kids. He's someone's granddad who does all this research. You know, like you meet him and he's got his own kind of views, and we agree on quite a lot of stuff, but not on everything. He never ever has put his views on me. I've always been able to make the content that I want. I mean, I'm self-employed, so I don't work for the company like legally, but I was there from day one with me and Jamie and Gaz, David and Gene has started the company, and it's been phenomenal. Really, really is. I was up on stage in front of a few hundred people about a month ago with him on stage talking about these subjects, doing a little presentation. It's like, this is amazing. I get to do this, and I'm forever grateful.
Brilliant. And the job that you all do is, especially during the medical nonsense, you were absolutely gold. I mean, David lost his YouTube channel because of his honestly, I could see it happening actually, Rich, because I knew the community guidelines quite well, and I was thinking, oh, that's probably the sort of age difference there. Is David being a bit older, is probably a bit more oblivious to how tech is really finicky with that sort of stuff, so they basically catch you out. Before I go any further, friends, I just want to say big congratulations to me, and also massive thank you to those of you that have started to support my Everest summit climb next year. I'm just going to show you the GoFundMe. As always, I'll be shining a light on veterans' mental health, the tragic suicide epidemic, but also to support anyone out there, as I always do, who is struggling with their mental health. I'll put a link below if you can give us some support, folks. I only ever ask for a £5, but anything you can do is absolutely appreciated. And also, could you like and subscribe, folks? Could you check if you're liked and subscribed? Because you're not going to get content like this in many places. So, Rich, Peter Thiel, it's one of them names. It's like a buzzword. It's just going round at the moment. Palantir, which I understand is some form of data mining company, and I associate that, Rich, with data mining. Not good. Not in human beings, best interest. And then, of course, we mentioned Keir Starmer, the NHS thing. I'm also guessing we can chuck the World Economic Forum into this fiasco. Over to you, mate.
Well, it goes so deep. So that's the top level, the Palantir stuff. Peter Thiel and Alex Karp started Palantir together. It's a CIA cutout. In terms of being data mining, it's the data mining, but really what they concentrate on is collating that data and making it mean something. So they bring out a language from it. So they create an outcome. So they say all this data means da da da, and you can push your company in this direction. So what they're doing is collating all that data. And I'll come on to DNA later and see how it connects. That data from the NHS and using it in your biometrics. Obviously, it's going to go down on your social credit score. You're going to have to be the whole point in the long run is they're going to put it in a guise of healthy living, sustainable living, obviously. And they're going to give you points and deduct credit points for you not living in a healthy way, eating too much of this, eating too much of that. And it'll all be for your benefit, but it's not really, is it? We all know that it isn't. So they've got in the UK, Keir Starmer, who's Trilateral Commission, an offshoot of the Round Table, the Club of Rome, which are massively involved with the whole climate change scam. Again, all that data is going to be fed into your compliance score, which, as I call it, it's not your social credit score, it's your compliance score. Let's have it right. So Keir Starmer's now allowed Palantir to handle all of that data from the NHS. Go over to the US. You've got now Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Chabad Lubavitch, or a Messianic sect. He has now given the same sort of system for most of the US population's data to Palantir, and you have all these riots, problem reaction solution riots in LA, because in April, Palantir signed a $30 million contract with ICE, which is their kind of their security, basically public police, or private police. Sorry, not public police, private police. So ICE signed a 30 million contract with Palantir in April to provide something called the Immigration OS, which is the platform for all the data on illegal immigration, deportation, and all this stuff. That's why you're seeing this problem reaction solution there, because there was such a kickback in the US about Palantir coming in, because people know that they can't be trusted. It's a CIA cutout. So now there's a reason for it, and people all want it because now they need it. It's a problem reaction solution. So you've got it across the board in the both Western superpowers, And you know it's attack on the West. Palantir are massively behind this data. It's data mining, but really at the core, what they do is data harvesting. They are able to turn that data into meaning something, and that's what they do for the CIA. And that's their only customer was originally CIA. It came out of InQtel. All of this stuff is all connected, all comes out of intelligence agencies. They want to track everything you do, and we know this stuff. At a deeper level, this goes into the occult, goes into transhumanism, goes into the technocracy, goes into the ideology of Human 2.0 and Solomon's Temple and all of these things that we could get into. But this is really where we are. So Keir Starmer is just one tiny node in the middle of that, allowing all your personal data, including, as you say, the data from your mental health records. They can say you're dangerous to society. They can give these things over. Now, they won't tell you that, but why would you want these lunatics who have an ideology of a new world order or world to come to have anything to do with your personal data on your mental and physical health? You won't. That's what they're taking, but they're weaponizing it. So Palantir, if you can think of it this way, it's not so much data mining, it's weaponizing data. That's what they specialize in.
I even asked Grok about this, and you know all this supposedly impartial AI software that's a form of artificial intelligence. It normally comes back and it's almost like Wikipedia. And yes, folks, I was showing a Wikipedia page there. Once you know Wikipedia, who writes Wikipedia, then you can make more sense of what's written on there, if you get what I'm saying. But whereas Grok normally just comes up with some like Wikipedia-like answer, using all the sources it quotes are the World Health Organization and according to Bill Gates, you're like, oh dear. It actually was quite scathing of Keir Starmer and his relationship. I'll just pull a couple of bits of it out for our friends out there. It's saying in February, Starmer visited Palantir's Washington, D.C. office during a trip to meet Donald Trump. So it sounds like he's doing a bit of side business, doesn't it? The visit was reportedly facilitated by Peter Mandelson, Starmer's choice for British ambassador to the US. Something about an island beginning owned by a guy called Epstein is coming to mind. You probably know more about that than me. Mandelson has ties to Palantir through his consultancy work, so this is completely impartial. The visit sparked criticism due to Palantir's controversial reputation and Thiel's political implications. And if I'm not correct, there's a little bit of word art there. I'm not trying to say anything here, Rich, but I'm pretty sure it's Saturn. I'm going. You know what? While I hand over to you, I'm just going to go. I'm going to check it out.
It is, yeah, Pete. Well, Mandelson. First off, Mandelson is very well known to be very good friends with Jeffrey Epstein. We all know that. He was at his birthday party. He was buying belts and St. Bart's. So you've got Peter Mandelson, who is through his business connections connected to Palantir. Palantir is CIA. So you've got CIA connected in with Epstein straight away. And you've got Mossad on the other end. So this is ridiculous. So you've got this guy that's hanging around with Jeffrey Epstein, who's Mossad, CIA, intelligence agencies all meet at the top anyway, as far as I'm concerned. You had Victor Rothschild, who was the head of the Cambridge Five And he clearly wasn't just KGB. He wasn't just British intelligence. He was the head of all of them. That's the point. And this was a long time ago. This goes through Cambridge, obviously, Cambridge University. So these things are all tied in together. So Peter Mandelson is friends with Epstein. They're on St. Bart's Island. Now, this is an island that people need to look into. St. Bart's is not too far away from St. James Island and another one called St. Thomas. They're all connected by submarines. St. Bart's Island was the island that P. Diddy was trafficking on. Also, a guy from Abercrombie and Fitch, can't remember his name off the top of my head, he was also done for soliciting young boys on them islands and basically doing these things. Elon Musk loves the island. Elon Musk conceived his 13th child called Romulus with a mystery girl that we know of now. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Called Romulus. That was his 13th child conceived on the island. Now, that island, in my opinion, is connected via submarines to Epstein Island, St. Thomas Island. They're all three of them. It's going on underwater, which is this Kabbalistic protection of the blue sea.
Can I just chuck in Richard Branson, mate, just so that...
Yep, Richard Branson's not too far away from there. He's got his own one-man submarines as well. Absolutely, the Virgin Islands for a reason. They tell you it's there's a transhumanist agenda to this. So that child Romulus, he is named after Romulus and Remus, who were the founding mythological brothers of Rome.
Yes, Rich, sorry, I hate interrupting my guests, but before I forget, the reason I'm asking that, not only is Branson still going into the schools, if I say medical stuff, people will know what I'm talking about. This has to be challenged, you know. It's just once you understand it, and I know a lot of people watching probably don't and think it's all in our best interest, but once you understand the sheer mass evil behind it. So I wanted to mention that. The second thing is Virgin. Is that a reference to ISIS?
Could be. Could well be. It could be the Virgin Mary, Isis, Semiramis, Shekinah, all the same character. They all kind of play off of the Trinity. So it's the Holy Ghost, the female aspect.
I say it because it's no accident Richard Branson became one of the richest men on the planet after he called his company Virgin.
Yeah.
And also with these islanders, it was... Ghislaine Maxwell was pushing for something called the Terre Mar project, which was basically, in a rubbish synopsis, it was this, like, we can have our own laws at sea that aren't the same as the country which the sea surrounds, and we can all, like, totter around on submarines going up, you know, hidden tunnels underneath these. And Richard tied into, not my Richard, the Branson tied into this, as did, I think, a lot of sort of untowards. And the idea, what I'm trying to say is that, or the worry here would be who was on those submarines. We're not talking big people here, folks, if you get my drift. And where were they taking them, and why didn't they want any law applied to it? Is that making a bit of sense, Rich?
It's making loads of sense. There's lots of things going on, and I think we need to kind of understand it's not just one thing. But yes, there's things going on underneath the island. Jeffrey Epstein ordered cement trucks 3 weeks before the FBI raided it. So the fact that he's left stuff on his chalkboard is hilarious to me, thinking that he left it 3 weeks before they even got there. He knew people were going to read the stuff on the chalkboard that was been apparently this big thing of there's a code on the chalkboard. No one really bought into that because he knew they were coming, because he bloody filled in whatever he filled in with cement. There's stuff going on underneath the island, and there's stuff going on, and it's to do with transhumanism. Now, I've spoken to Juliet Bryant, I think you have a few times, but I've spoken to Juliet Bryant many, many times, continuously over the last 2.5 years. She said she woke up paralyzed naked under Zorro Ranch. She believes they're harvesting eggs. Now, as mad as that sounds, they need the female eggs to work on these transhumanist beings. This goes into really dark stuff that includes creating a vessel or a homunculus for this being that comes in from another world. And it's the Rosemary's Baby story. It's the moon child of Aleister Crowley. And that connects into to Jack Parsons, the Manhattan Project, L. Ron Hubbard, Scientology. Go to Zorro Ranch, not too far away is a Scientology Church of Spiritual Technology underground vaults called Trementina Base. So there's something happening in the island to do with creating a human 2.0, a vessel, and there's something to do with it in Zorro Ranch underneath the New Mexico grounds as well. And this all goes into what you might think, well, what's that got to do with Keir Starmer and all of these guys? That data from all of that information is stored in the temple. So that it's all part of the same system. So creating this human 2.0 will have the technology in it to be connected to Solomon's temple. And that data will be streamed left and right. So on one hand, you've got people creating the not allegorical, it's not the word for what I'm looking for. They're working on the system that you'll all be connected to, which will become the B system, which will become your social credit system, China-like. And then on the other hand, they're creating the being that's able to withstand having this technology attached to them. Does that make sense? There's lots of things, moving parts here, but they're all involved with the same ideology, which is human 2.0. So under the island, as you said, and under the water, which is the protection of Shekinah, which is protection from the evil eye, which is all to do with the Kabbalah. She was doing stuff under the water. She wanted laws for different, basically just at sea laws, not the laws that we have at sea now. They wanted those. And there was even talk of being involved with submersible cities as well for one of the Chinese companies. There's something going on here. And everybody's looking for the Epstein files of who was here and who was there. That he hasn't. Juliet Bryant's told me, and she's adamant, that they weren't trafficking women to anyone. They were mostly for his use. And when you look at the other ones, there's the reason why people are chasing around, well, where are the Epstein list? Who is he trafficking people to? He wasn't using them for trafficking, in my opinion. Maybe he was here and there with close friends. Get that. Completely agree with that. In terms of being part of a massive ring, they were using these women as harvesting for their eggs to harvest these children that are used in this experiment, in my opinion. And we're not going to know the real truth until we look at we know that Epstein was deeply involved with transhumanism. And I think I have an idea of where that evidence might be, but people will dismiss this as crazy. But remember, these people can do these things. There's a guy called George Church. I've got his book here. I'm just reading it now. It's called Regenesis. George Church. George Church is a scientist, and he was funded by Jeffrey Epstein. He's the guy that founded Colossal Biosciences, which just de-extinct the direwolf. Now, what do you think they called that direwolf? Romulus and Remus. What's Musk's new 13th son called? Romulus. Where did he have conceived the son? St. Bart's Island. Where is Epstein's Island? Right near St. Bart's Island. This is all connected. It's symbolic and it's literal as well. So above as below. Now, George Church also created a technology where they can actually store data to the DNA. JavaScript, JPEGs, and text, and maybe even video file, but I haven't found any evidence of that, to someone's DNA. And with CRISPR-9 technology, look this up, guys, they can re-enter that DNA into the human vessel, into the body. So where do you think his compromat might be hidden? Just having a guess. In his body. In Ghislaine Maxwell's DNA. Where would you hide something if you wanted to hide it? You'd hide it with the criminal in the cell. Literally in the cell itself. Now, as mad as this sounds, look up George Church, look up data to DNA, and you will see that they're able to do this. Now, George Church was funded by Jeffrey Epstein. Would he not go, kind of need something hidden? Could you put all that stuff in my DNA, please? And they can retrieve it as well. And I'm not joking. It's mad, but it's true. It's very, very true. George Church, look him up. And he's a geneticist.
It kind of fits with a couple of things humans can store stuff in their body, sort past trauma, for example. So that must be stored somehow locked into your DNA.
Yep. Yep.
And then also, and we've got to be careful what we say here, Rich, but, if I was to talk about a certain medical scenario, someone asked me the other day, Chris, do you think they were trying to destroy people's pituitary and pineal glands? That's as you know, Rich, the pineal and the pituitary acts as a torus field, which as above, so below, interacts with the bigger universe. Hence, you get your download. You get your downloads in the form of photons, or what the scripture refers to as angels. And it's a danger. I mean, the greatest part of my life, or at least one of the greatest parts of my life, is when I'm running along. It's early in the morning. Nobody's awake yet. I've got house music blaring in me headphones. I'm powering up a hill. I'm 55 years old. I still got the body of a 19-year-old, and I can still run like it. And do you know what? I'm so grateful for what Spirit has given me, Rich. Whether that's universe, God, I'm not quite there with my understanding of that, And the thought that these maniacs are trying to steal that from gullible, naive people that still go along with that 150-year-old controlled agenda, goes back to Pasteur. I can well understand the same thing when you're blocking out the sun for whatever reason, but not least of which, that's your connection with source. There's information in those photons of light. The first thing in scripture, it say, let there be light, and there was light, and God is light, and they're blocking it out at the same time as stopping everyone from eating vegetables. That's a massive, what I would say is a psyop at the moment. Vegetables is chlorophyll, it's energy from the sun locked into almost like a natural electrolyte, and our bodies are an electromagnetic system that rely on that to connect the pineal and the pituitary to the bigger picture. Sorry, I don't want to go too much off topic here, but when they are, whatever their agenda is, they are steps ahead of people's public perception, mate. Are they not? Even if it's theoretical at this stage.
Well, they are, but also they're using old hermetic principles, alchemical principles, to understand this. So with what you've just spoken about there, Donald Trump launched the Stargate project for, I think it was 500 billion into these data centers. Now the Stargate is you. You are the Stargate. So how that connects into what you've just said there with the pineal gland or pineal gland is, I don't think they're so much trying to disconnect you from it, although I think that's a part. They're trying to hijack it, because this homunculus and this isn't creative. On the Kabbalistic tree of life, it comes up to Dayat, which is knowledge, which is also an anagram of data. But it can't get above Dayat, which is hidden in the background. It's hidden knowledge. And above them is the three top Sephiroths, which is like is Trinity. So it's your knowledge, wisdom and understanding. So they can't have any wisdom or understanding about the data that it knows. So AI can only store data. It won't really understand it, has no wisdom about it, and it can't get to the Godhead, which is your crown, which is your Keter, which is your pineal gland, which is where they want to hack into. So the Stargate is you. Your system, the body that you've been given, is an incredible Stargate, and that's how you come up with concepts, ideas, intuition. So what he's talking about in Kabbalistic terms is the Stargate they want to hack is you and your connection to the source, which this AI can never have. And obviously then you have so above as below. So you have the physical matter of it, which is the data centers, but then you have the cult principle is what they really work off. So when they talk about, in the other thing you brought up was the blocking out the sun. When you talk about blocking out the sun, actually what they're talking about, one level, they're probably talking about physically trying to block it out, but on the occult level, they're talking about the sun needs to be replaced by the moon because the sun is the firstborn. The moon is the secondborn. They see people like me, yourself, everyone who's the Edomites are the firstborn, like Cain. We're chaos. Chaos came first, then came the order. The sun comes first. The sun has all the energy. The moon has no creativity, intuition of its own. It can only reflect the light of the sun back towards. So what I'm saying is all these principles work together. So they're trying to hack. We are the sons of God, and they're trying to, all of us, every single one of us on this planet are. No matter what you've done or what you've done, you still are. Because you were born to that. They're trying to hack that, and you steal the light from the sun, dim it, and reflect it back into something they call the shimmering darkness or twilight. And in their world to come, which is Olam Haba, New World Order, all the same thing, they will live in the shimmering darkness, which is the twinkling darkness. It's dark, but it glitters. Like all that glitters ain't gold, that sort of thing. So when you understand the language, it's called Twilight language, that they're talking, all of this stuff connects. They speak, but they're actually speaking with forked tongue. They're speaking 2 or 3 levels of language at the same time. So when he talks about Stargate, he's talking about you and the technology. But the technology is to hack into you. That's where Palantir comes in. And all of this technology comes in. That's where transhumanism comes in, because they're trying to create the being. There's all sorts of this going on. And when you start to unpack it, you're like, this is mad. But it actually is no different from what they were trying to do. Aleister Crowley was trying to do with the Babylon working ritual, which was create a vessel for this other being to come in, connected to their cult. Anthony Lewandowski is a chap who runs a thing called The Way of the Future. It's an AI church with an AI godhead. He was pardoned by Donald Trump because he was in prison for stealing some, I think it was electric car secrets. Just they needed something on him. So they sent him to prison. Donald Trump pardoned him on his last day in 2016, I think, on his last one. And he has now come out and restarted his AI cult and his godhead, but he owes Donald Trump one. And it's mad, but they are doing this, mate. They really are doing this.
Why do you think people can't see? Well, I mean, I think we'll probably, it's a rhetorical question, but you've got this, you know, this 50-minute grid, this or 50-minute cities with the grid controlling people, and hence the move, I would say, to electricity. So they're trying to ban log burners now, aren't they? There's a move to ban log burners. They're trying to get rid of what's they're terming old school cars, which are fossil fuel driven cars, in favour of this absolute abortion, the electric car, which is so incredibly unsafe, totally unsustainable and bad for the environment, but also ties well in with the New World Order, doesn't it? How far have you driven on your electric car this week, Mr. Thrall? Didn't you know your social credit score isn't high enough to go to Tor Point?
Yep, absolutely.
And then of course you've got the other, what I just call massive psyop, which is Mars. You mentioned Jack Parsons. The whole reason Jack Parsons went to Thelema and the occult is because we can't get rockets into space. Not because we can. If we can, you know, the rest would be history, and Jack Parsons would be a name etched into infamy or eternity. But he went to this sex and drugs cult, Thelema, under the beast himself, Aleister Crowley, and of course, you got Elon comes along and scrub all of that we can't get rockets into space. And, oh, yes, we can. Despite Werner von Braun, who was the head, you know, the lead scientist at NASA after the war, who said If you want to get a rocket in space, you've got to think of a fuel tank the size of the Empire State Building, and that anyone knows you'd be better off with some sort of nuclear explosion. And someone explained this to me once. Let's not go there. And yet, Elon, it's like a lot of this stuff. There's all this stuff to tie him to the New World Order, big puppet player. And he is literally, I think, just a puppet. I think he literally sits at home getting, even more unhealthy and playing on his Twitter all day long and sounding good. What am I trying to say? Okay, two questions. One, that is order out of chaos, isn't it? He seems like he says all the right bloody stuff and he's the new Messiah, and then but the other stuff just doesn't back that up.
No.
Secondly, why do you think people can't see it, or do you just think they're not aware of this agenda?
I think they're not aware, but also I think because they speak in this Twilight language again. So when it comes to Mars, I don't believe he's trying to get to Mars. When you look at what he means by Mars, Mars is the planet of in Kabbalah, remember. So I'm not talking about astrology, I'm talking about the Kabbalah, and they are all Lurianic Kabbalists. Mars is the planet of judgment. Now, so he's playing the god of judgment. That's why he dressed as Mars Man with the Baphomet head for Halloween. So he's playing, and the element of Mars is iron. And if the element of Mars is iron, that would make him Iron Man. Now, wasn't he in the Iron Man film? Yes, he was. He was an Iron Man. The whole point is this is all Kabbalistic Twilight language. So in Kabbalah, the Mars is the planet of judgment. So that's about taking you to your final judgment day. Now, there was a book written by R.C. Ettinger. Now, R.C. Ettinger is known as the father of cryonics, which is cryogenics, freezing yourself to come back alive later. R.C. Ettinger he wrote short stories, they always do, sci-fi stories. Now, in this sci-fi story he wrote, which was called The Penultimate Trump, there was an old guy in there that was frozen for 300 years, came back, and then when he came back, he realised he'd funded a system where you had to go through, eye for an eye, everything you'd done to others, to rectify yourself and get to live in the new world. You had to go through that punishment on the planet Mars. It's all symbolic. They're not really going to Mars. They're telling you they're going up the Sephirotic tree of life. And Mars is, I can never remember if it's 5 or 7, I think it's 5. They're working their way up the Kabbalah tree of life again. They're trying to go back up it. This is all the Kabbalah. And the reason why I say that this is because have a look at Trump and have a look at Netanyahu and have a look at Putin. They are all deeply involved with, and I would say controlled by, a group called Chabad Lubavitch from New York, Brooklyn, that are Lurianic Kabbalists who pretend to be Orthodox Jews. They're not. They are Sabbatean Frankists. And it's so bloody obvious. Now, Musk is found with them as well. Ben Shapiro's around them as well. RFK Jr., Malay, they're all bowing their knees to these guys because this is the Saturn Sabbatean cult that are using the Jewish faith to hide behind. So when you hear about him going off to Mars, it's all occult symbology. He's not really going to Mars. Have you seen some of the rockets? They're not going to Mars, for fuck's sake. They're going. That money is being washed there and put into these. In my opinion, anyway. This is just my opinion from the research I've done for 15 years. They're going into these black ops. That doesn't go there. That's all a stage show. It's all a front. He's not trying to go to Mars. He's not to colonize Mars. He's the Mars Man, the Iron Man, the god of judgment that's going to judge the human race before we go to human 2.0. This is all symbolic. That's why people can't understand it, because it sounds ludicrous, because it is ludicrous, because that's not what they're doing. They're doing something far more mental than sending rockets to Mars.
And what coincidence it is that when you say that this all ties in, that von Braun created the character Elon
Yep.
in his 1952 science fiction novel, Science Fiction Project Mars.
Mars. Yeah.
Is that a truth in plain sight, or am I just...
The character was called Elon, and the character's task in the whole book was to take humans from Earth to Mars. It was Kabbalah. Even that book was Kabbalah. That's just what they're telling you. They're not telling you, these aren't practical things, although there is some practical magic to this lot. They are telling you what they're trying to do in a sense of transhumanism. It's all eugenics, it's all transhumanism, which is basically what they want the new world order to be full of, these 600,000 androgynous beings, which they believe are hiding within the spark of them are hiding within the rest of us, who they need to get rid of. And in their terms, we, the Goyim, the Edomites, the Romans, are the husks that are keeping that spark of divine light trapped. So this goes into the Gnostic stuff as well. So they're trying to tell you for all these different ways, maybe people for a valid reason, a good reason. I'm not saying everybody's evil, but this is all coded. So the Kelipotic husk is the husk from the evil side on the Kabbalah that houses the divine spark. So an easy way to describe this is when JFK was murdered and when Diana was murdered, what did they use as their memorial?
The flame, the Illuminati flame.
The eternal flame. Checking up that ISIS is holding what? She's blue, but they've kept the eternal flame gold. It's the golden spark of the eternal flame. So they killed, obviously, quite clearly, murdered Diana and JFK. And they memorialized it and told you that they did that by putting the spark of the divine light that they claim that they set that soul free. Not the soul of Diana, but the soul that Diana was hiding within her. Do you understand? That's why you got her walking out with the Rosemary's Baby dress on. It's transhumanism. It's homunculus. Kate Middleton, same dress. Transhumanism, homunculus. This stuff all goes into one. Even John Lennon was shot on the doorsteps of the Manhattan where they filmed Rosie's Baby. And it was Dave Geffen, who's an absolute criminal who runs Hollywood, who's a Zionist, that went and picked up Yoko Ono from the hospital later. He was her handler. It's all connected. And I know it sounds mad, and it is mad. I agree with you. But it's a cult. What do you expect a cult to do?
I don't think it sounds mad. That David did a talk once, and it really set me looking at Diana, and I uncovered a load of stuff. I've done a couple of videos on it, which were massively popular. And in no particular order, and I'm just trying to recall the bits that my aging memory can remember, but the dog theme went all the way through it. From the dog that was seen in the Vietnamese immigrant's car, everyone reported seeing a black dog in the white Fiat Uno,
right,
to the fact that Diana, as we know, is the goddess of hunting, always depicted with the dog, like the Alsatian, jumping up at her. That identical picture was their wedding photo, where they went to, rather than go to, Ibiza like most of us would, they chose an unusual location. They went to the hunting lodge at Balmoral, and they had that photo taken with the dog jumping up at Diana. She incidentally hated that dog. It was Charles' dog. And if you look at the statues of the goddess Diana, it's like the identical pose. And then, of course, that area of the Pont de Alma goes back to something about the Merovingi dynasty or whatever their name is. You'll know it better than I do.
Yeah.
And again, a whole lot more symbolism there. And then, of course, where did they bury her? On the Althorpe estate. The maid came out and said, OMG, I can't believe it. They've buried her in the pet cemetery. That's where they bury the dogs. You know, that island was was the pet cemetery,
Yep.
and
Wow.
there's. I mean, I've got photos that I've sort of grabbed here and there. One of her wearing dogtooth check, one of her wearing the Virgin T-shirt. I know I'm being Mr. sort of Red Pillock now, but it does make you wonder where.
Well, I've just found out. I mean, what you say there with the dog thing, the pet cemetery thing sounds like blooming reanimation immortality, which is my next film I'm working on at the moment about that. And that's massively part in it. So that I'll have to look into that. What you've just said there about um, Diana and Charles, their honeymoon. So they spent their early days of their honeymoon at Craigowin. Andrew secretly. So that's the same place where Jeffrey Epstein's seen in the hunter's cabin with Ghislaine Maxwell. This is the same cabin. So they're
Yeah.
both. That's the Queen's hunter's cabin.
Yes,
So
that's
Jeffrey
the one.
Epstein and Giz. So what are they doing there then? Are they creating some sort of homunculus there? I mean, what is going? I've been to Balmoral, and there's up to the big old churchy like the pyramid thing, and it's creepy as hell. Balmoral means Baal, which is we know what Baal is, the god Baal. They used to sacrifice children to Baal. Baal was actually a title, but it became a being in itself. Baal moral, so the morals of Baal, and there's a sigil of Saturn is on the Balmoral crest, which what's the sigil of Saturn, which is IXXI, which is 9/11. I mean, it's all a ritual.
Yes, and Baal is ties into Cronus, doesn't it? Father of Time, who's said to represent Saturn.
Yep.
Father of Time is meant to be, or it's been said that it's a reference to if you live in time, like with a watch, that you're a slave. You because there is no, it's not a concept. Time we're eternal, or life is eternal. Yes, this is why I like having you on the show, Rich, because not only you got this wealth of information, but you can put it across so calm and placidly that it's totally, totally makes sense.
Well, I'd like the audience to know that I don't believe in these things. And I think that's a common misconception, is that when we talk about these things, we believe that they could stick a human soul in a new body, or they could reanimate someone who's dead. I'm not saying I believe they could do this, but I certainly believe they're trying. And they've killed a lot of young people, especially children, in the process of doing all these missing children. They're going into these black budget projects, and that's what they're really doing. They're trying to create the Rosemary's Baby, or the Moon Child. A moon again, Shekinah, the second child of the first with the sun, chaos. Second child is the moon. It all goes back to the Kabbalah. It's all ritualistic. It's based on Hermetic principles and alchemical principles, but they're just basically putting technology in it. So the new video I've got coming out this week is about this. On iconic.com, and it's about the ghost in the machine, and it's the the trinity of this. They use nuclear technology. Remember, Jack Parsons, as you rightly said at the start, was part of the Trinity site, the Manhattan Project. They use nuclear technology to blast a hole rip the veil, to let something else in. They're doing the same at CERN, in my opinion, as well. They need something to capture that energy in, a homunculus, like a bottle. See it as a bottle, but a body. Now that body can function, but it won't know what it's supposed to do. It needs to be connected to something else. So you've got this devil, and just bear with me, because this is what they're trying to do, in my opinion. I'm not saying they can't do it. So this devil energy in this homunculus, see it as a mannequin or some sort of robot. And then that needs to connect to, via AI and nanotechnology, because you've got biosynthetics. So it's a mixture between biology and technology, to the hub, the AI system. But it will be this demonic devil energy that they're trying to bring in will be controlling the AI. That's what they're trying to do. There's a 3-part system there. And that's what they're trying. Everything is build back better. Everything is 3. They always have to do it in 3. So that's what they're trying to build, and that is connecting the Stargate. They're trying to do a portal through to the Stargate. Forget taking things. I mean, there is a literal element to this, obviously, but also there is an element that doesn't have a word for it, that we just know, a knowing of that's mental, but it looks like they're doing it. They are trying to do these things, in my opinion, and that's what they're trying to do with this technology. So you've got allowing that energy in through CERN, and I've told you with the tunnel, the Gotham tunnel opening, and all those things coming through the tunnel. Ghostbusters told you they trap
that
it
was
in the
them.
body.
That was almost like them blessing their experiment, wasn't it? That weird.
Because it's the same thing, yeah.
Yeah,
The Gotham Tunnel, yeah. It was Gotham as well, or Gothard. I think it was Gothard or something like
yeah.
that. So, I mean, Gotham City is based on New York, for God's sake. It is New York in an alternative world. These Chabad guys are in Brooklyn, New York. This whole thing is very real, and all it is a technological version of the Babylon working ritual. It's exactly what it is. They're trying to animate this being so they can house their god in it in this world, connected to AI, which would oversee all of us. As mad as that sounds, that's what I believe they're doing, and I found so much evidence down to the point that Los Alamos website, go on their website or Google this, pregnant lady, Los Alamos, Manhattan testing. There was a lady who was 7 months pregnant, seven again, which is their number of completion. She was 7 months pregnant when she was at the Manhattan Project launch. She saw it. She was there working on it. She was 7 months pregnant. They've put it on the Los Alamos website because they need people to understand it or in the know. And then she gave birth to this child shortly afterwards, and the child was called Marilyn, but for nickname they called her Trinity. She's alive somewhere in the world. And is a rumor, whether this is true or not, I've only found a couple of sources, that the Jack Parsons had a child with this woman he called the Red Lady, that was part of the Babylon working ritual. They had a child, but the child was terminated, but they took out the fetus and kept it in a 12-foot bottle that was at the launch of the Trinity site of the Manhattan Project when the nuclear bomb went off. They were trying to capture whatever came through that rip in the veil in the bottle. As mad as it sounds, look it up.
It doesn't sound mad at all. Obsession is a weird thing. Also, being born, I think, with sort of messed up DNA, which I think a lot of these characters are, Rich.
They have, because I think they've been in the experiments. I think Jeffrey Epstein was in the experiments. I think Weinstein was in experiments. They've all got some weird deformity
I think you
as
can
well.
also add years and years of inbreeding into that,
Yeah.
because they consider everyone else is dirty, is filth, and so they keep it in the family, and that's why a lot of these characters wear glasses. He says wearing glasses.
I wear
but
glasses, yeah.
these are reading glasses. I mean that, Rich, I've literally got 2 more minutes. That's not being rude to you. I've just remembered I've got to go and pick up a certain young man, not in that sense. I mean from school, folks. Keep it clean, everybody. Bloody hell. Just a quick one. Greta, Gaza. I think we can all agree. Sideshow.
Yeah.
Just very quickly, Trump and Netanyahu's relationship. Is that just more order out of chaos, smoke and mirrors? Over to you.
Yeah. They're both. Have a look at Chabad Lubavitch, spelt Chabad Lubavitch, Brooklyn, New York. All three of them, Putin, Netanyahu, and Donald Trump, are all deeply involved with that sect who are Lurianic Kabbalists. It's all a show.
Putin was brought up by Chabad.
He was raised around Orthodox Jews, yeah, and absolutely, as he grew up, he was very close to these guys as well. So, and he's got his own. I think it's Lazar is his own rabbi. So yeah, they're connected. All of them are. They're merely players. These other guys, they are what you would call the Men in Black. And I think that's the nod and the wink there from the films, that who these guys really are. The satin hat, black hat wearing Lurianic Sabbatean Kabbalists that pretend to be Orthodox Jews, which is really sad because they used the faith for its own use, and then people go against the Jewish faith, which is not. It's not. These people are not Jewish. They're Donma. They are crypto. They are pretending to be,
Yeah.
and they're using it as a shield, red shield. And yeah, I mean, I think people are starting to get this now. So it's people are understanding me.
Rich, that just leaves me to say massive, massive thank you. Thank you to everybody. Everybody in the chat has been flying by. We've got an awful lot of people watching. Folks, could you please like and subscribe? The second thing is, could you support me, please, by supporting the Patreon? That really helps me to put a bit of time aside for this show. You can do it on Patreon or become a YouTube member. Or if you want our uncensored stuff, you can support us on Locals. But please take action and give us some support, folks. Rich, all your links are going to be below this video. Please don't hang around because I'm going to play us out now, and I know you've got stuff to do. Absolutely fascinating chat, brother. Absolutely fascinating, and I'm dead chuffed that we can have loads more of these.
Of course we can. Lovely to speak to you. Thank you for having me.
You too.
Okay, guys.
You too. Cheers, Rich.
Bye.